What's up, guys? It's James from Lucrative MMA. I'm back to break down UFC 260. Pretty decent main card, pretty shit prelim card, if I'm being completely honest. And we're going to go straight into it. We're going to break it all down. I'll obviously be going over the fights that happened. I'll be talking about the main talking points from the card, the main talking points from the fights. And always when I do these live streams, they're always littered throughout the whole live stream with little jewels you can take home to help you when you're betting on MMA. You know, sometimes I go off in rants and talk about certain things to look for in the future cards when you're betting on MMA. And I'm actually going to give you a huge jewel on the first fight when we break them down. So let's go straight into it, man. The first fight on the card was Marc-Andre Barriault versus Abu Azeita. Now, this fight was pretty dramatic in the end because obviously in the third round, Marc-Andre Barriault pressured Abu Azeita, who was gassing hard. Mark seemed to be gassing as well in the end of that second round, but you know Mark, he can dig deep. He's done it multiple times in his career. He's one of them fighters that keeps on coming. And even though he looked almost as gassed as Azeita in the end of that second round, he obviously wasn't, or he was able to dig a little deeper. You know, that's no shade thrown on Abu Azeita because Azeita is also tough as fuck, man. He's got the heart of a lion, the heart of a warrior. And we saw that in the last few minutes of the fight. You know, even though I feel like the fight should have been stopped sooner, you can't take anything away from Azeita, you know, in regards to his heart, because, I mean, yeah, he had the heart of a lion. Every time he was told to move by the ref, he did move. He even spoke to the referee, but he was just completely gassed, you know, so the ref should have stopped it earlier. But basically, Marc-Andre Barriault, he manages to get top position from a really weird sequence, right? Abu Azeita's mouth guard comes out. Now, maybe that's just because he's so tired and his mouth's wide open and he's getting hit with shots. That's often what happens, right? When a fighter's, not often, but sometimes when a fighter's really tired, their mouthpiece comes out more, you know. Sometimes they actually throw it out because they want to break in the action, but also just because their mouth is open because they're trying to breathe. They can't breathe through their nose anymore because they're so tired. And obviously, if your mouth is open, you can't bite down on your mouth shield, which means it's just going to be a little bit looser. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there, why his mouth guard came out, but it did. He bent down instantly to go and get it. And he was hit by Marc-Andre Barriault, and he ended up going to the floor, and Mark ended up in dominant position, actually in mount. It was a bit strange because the referee, Valal, kind of went to stop the action when Abu Azeita's mouth guard come out, but then he decided not to stop the action. He had multiple mistakes in that third round, and it wasn't a good look for the ref there. But Mark ends up on top, and, I mean, he lands a ridiculous amount of strikes on Azeita. And if you have a look on the screen here, I'm hoping you guys can see it, but it basically says that Mark landed 141 significant strikes, right, to Azeita's 108. But I'd argue that he landed more than 141 significant strikes. These are the significant strikes here. I would argue that he definitely landed more than that because, I mean, if you look at that, it's basically saying he only landed 33 more significant strikes than Azeita, which is bullshit, really, right? I don't believe that. Anyway, he manages to get the stoppage with 4 seconds to go in round 3, 4 seconds to go of the fight, which was a late stoppage, man. But, I mean, a lot's been said about that. We know it was a late stoppage. So, yeah, shout out to Marc-Andre Barriault. I did think he had it in him to win, but, you know, if you listen to my preliminary card breakdown, I did think it could be a close decision for Azeita. So I didn't want to back Andre Barriault, but maybe because Azeita was out for a few months, a couple years, I believe, 2 years, I should have predicted him gassing a little bit more. I know people say he was a gasser, but I mean, just being honest, I've seen him go 3 rounds before and keep a high pace for 3 rounds. So coming into the fight, unlike some others, apparently, you know, I didn't think he was as big as a gasser as I said, some apparently did. Obviously, I did know Andre Barriault always pushes forward, and I did know that Azeita throws hella volume. And although I didn't think he gasses, I knew he didn't necessarily keep the same pace all 3 rounds, just because it's virtually impossible. Out of the 108 significant strikes he landed, he probably landed damn near more than half of them, probably about 3/4 of them in the first round. So. Yeah, good win from Marc-Andre Barriault there. He's on a 2-fight winning streak now after going on a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC. And yeah, I mean, he's a solid fighter to bet on, because I feel like we really know what we're going to get with him. We know that he's susceptible to being taken down. Obviously, Azeita couldn't get the takedowns, but I believe a couple of them he shot when he was fully gassed, and they were kind of desperation takedowns. But we know Mark can be grinded out fairly easily. He can be taken down fairly easily. But if he's fighting someone who, doesn't necessarily keep a solid pace and slows down, we know he's always going to be there in the 3rd round. So a lot of people cashed that 3rd round prop, and a lot of people just cashed on him in general. So shout out to everyone who did that. Definitely a solid bet to kick off the card. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention, which is what I mentioned, was I was going to give you guys a jewel in betting, right? And look, I haven't crunched the numbers. I probably will do a video this week on crunching the numbers of this, but I have a pretty solid suspicion. And man, this is some tricks of the trade here. So you guys are in luck, because this is like, this is a pretty good thing to know. So this is the first fight on the card, right? And it was a banger of a fight. Yeah, it could have been stopped a couple of times. It didn't go to decision. And I have a sneaky suspicion that the UFC often put fights that don't go to decision at the start of the card, right? Last week, what do we have? JP Byers versus Bruno Silva. And over the last few months, I've been noticing that every first fight on the card, right, is a banger. I think there was another fight meant to be first on the card last week. It was, I believe it might have been Anthony Burchek versus some dude. I can't remember. If anyone's in the chat and hit me up. But that was going to be a banger, and I actually was going to bet on that not to go to decision. I was Eduardo versus Burchek, right? That was meant to be the first fight on the card last week. And I already had about to lock in a bet on that fight to not go to decision. And as soon as I went to do it, the fight got cancelled, right? So I believe that they put the first fight, or even maybe the first couple fights on the card. As I said, I haven't looked deep into it. I think they put the fights that they think are going to be wars. And a lot of the time when they're wars, they don't go to decision. So that might be a sneaky play there, because I know it was plus money for this fight to not go to decision. I believe it was plus money last week, or it was near evens for the fight not to go to decision. I think it might have been plus 110, Byers and Silva. So it might be a sneaky angle to play, the fight not go to decision, or the under 2.5 in the first fight of the card. So I am going to crunch the numbers of that, and just subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will see a video released later in the week where I do go over the fights that have been first on the UFC cards, and I will actually break down exactly if they don't go to decision or if they do. But I have a sneaky suspicion that a lot of the times they don't. And that was a banger. It was a good way to start off the card. And now we'll go to the next fight. The next fight was Shane Young versus Omar Morales, which was the first bet of the card for me. Yeah, man. So this was the first bet of the card for me. And it was my second biggest bet of the whole year. So I didn't really like this card from a betting perspective. I didn't have too much bets on the card. But this was my second biggest bet of the year. So I guess it's the bet I liked the second most of the whole year, And that was Omar Morales' money line. Okay, we jumped in at a minus 175. Hella value there. Very strange fight, I will say. Shane Young come out looking like a completely different man. Shane Young's never fought like that before. He shot 5 takedowns. If you can see my screen here, you might not be able to see it, but I will zoom in for you. So he shot 5 takedowns, right? Takedowns are here. Shane Young's on the left. He shot 5. He only got 1. But other than shooting 5 takedowns, he pressured Omar against the cage consistently. And even if he didn't shoot a takedown, Shane, he would still grapple. So he shot 5 takedowns and grappled, engaged in the grappling about 15 times. You know, he would do it 3 or 4 times each round. It was very, very strange. I've never seen Shane fight like that before. And what I chalk it down to is probably PTSD from the Klein fight, right? He got knocked out brutally in the fight against Ludovic Klein, which was his last fight. And he possibly didn't want to get knocked out the same this time. And I will say that if he fought like he usually does, just throwing hands, not really caring too much about defense, not engaging in the grappling at all, I do think he was definitely liable to be knocked out. So, you know, we will never know because we'll probably never see this fight again. But I do think Shane Young was able to avoid the beating that he would have got if he didn't grapple by grappling. So it is what it is. Omar Morales still won every round. He won a 30-27 decision. There was absolutely no sweat there. Thinking back in hindsight, I'm actually happy the fight went that way because, you know, if it was a firefight back and forth like I thought it would be, I was very confident Omar Morales would win that fight and decently confident he'd probably get the knockout. I said about 60% of the time Omar wins, he gets the knockout. So I actually favored him to get the knockout. But even if it wasn't, I thought he would really hurt Shane badly on the feet. And I believe that that was proven to be correct. Whenever they did engage in the striking, Omar Morales was clearly a level above in the striking, very clearly a level above. So I was super happy with my read there. But as I was going to say, I am happy that the fight went that way just because if it is a firefight, you know, there's always a chance for Shane to land a big shot. But there wasn't ever really a chance for Shane to land a big shot there. And at the end of the day, Shane did virtually nothing to win that fight. So me watching it at home, there was no sweat. And I was like, oh man, this is easy. You know, it's one of the easiest cashes I've ever had, even though it was a extremely strange fight. So, I mean, extremely strange fight for these two, right? You know, I thought it was going to be a banger. I had 8.5 units on Omar money line. It cashed 4.9 units for me. And then I had 0.75 units on Omar to win inside the distance, TKO, KO, or submission, which obviously didn't cash. But, you know, second biggest bet of the year, easy cash, happy with that. And that maintains my 100% record on bets over 5 units. And I will just say that next week, I already have a 5.7 unit play for a fighter on the card. Not next week, but the week after the UFC returns. So if anyone wants to get in now, I'm 100% on the bets over 5 units. So probably just put your whole bankroll on that after you sign up with me and probably pay back for, you know, your membership and a lot more. No, who knows? Look, at some point, I'm sure that run will come to an end. But at the moment, we're still 100%, which is very good. But yeah, shout out to Omar. He obviously goes on, probably going to get a step up in competition now. But man, anytime I can get Omar at minus 175 against a fighter level below him, I will always be looking to cash. I do like Omar as a fighter. A lot of people were hating on him because of that Giga fight. Giga's a serious fighter, man. Giga is a serious striker, man. He can play that range game all day. He's a very, very good fighter. His fight against Omar kind of reminded me of the Almeida and O'Malley fight, just a level above in the striking. Almeida, Morales wasn't able to get close to him. Yeah, man, I do like Giga as a fighter for sure. And I like Omar as a fighter. The next fight we had on the card, Modesto Bukowskis versus Michel Oleg Zaychek. How's that for accents? Pretty spot on, I thought. Split decision win for Michel. I thought Michel won. I guess maybe Bukowskis could have edged the second round, but I don't think so. It was definitely a close fight, though. Shout out to anyone on both of these guys, I guess. Bukowskis at that plus 160 or plus 140 or whatever he was. Not a bad bet there. So Michel comes out and he conserves his gas tank. You know, most of the time he doesn't conserve his gas tank, but he conserved his gas tank here. And actually, he was the one pressuring in that third round. And he almost got Bukowskis out there in the third round because he hit him with a huge body shot. So I will say that a lot of, you know, I kind of had this sneaky suspicion in the back of my mind that maybe was blowing Michel having a bad gas tank. You know, he's blowing it a little bit out of proportion because we only really saw it in that OSP fight. And he did go 3 rounds with Khalil. And we was blowing it out of proportion because Michel, actually, it seems like he's got a fine gas tank. And it's not like the fight was super slow paced. Michel was pressuring that whole fight. So actually, Michel's got a good gas tank. It was just a pacing issue. So that's something to note going forward. Anyway, Bukowskis obviously tried to stick on the outside. Looked like the cleaner striker, but Michel definitely, definitely pressured more and was able to hit him with some solid shots with the boxing. Bukowskis more of a kickboxer, Michel more of a boxer. And Michel did enough to win in my books. I had the fight doesn't go to decision in this fight, and I had Bukowskis to win in round 3. So I lost 2.25 units overall in this fight. Look, I don't regret the fight doesn't go to decision. I thought Michel would come out a little bit more mad, so maybe I can, learn from that. Maybe I can definitely learn from that, right? So I underestimated Michel's gas tank and overestimated him coming out like a madman, right? So I definitely can learn from that. But other than that, I'm not really unhappy about my bet, even though that Michel didn't come out like a madman. The fight had a decent chance to be stopped. Both of their chins held up. Both of them got hit with huge shots a couple of times throughout the fight. It wasn't constant, but at least twice each fighter got hit with 100% strikes on the button, and they both ate it at light heavyweight. So that's all you can really ask for, right? Huge shots landing at light heavyweight. You can't really ask for much more than that. In the last round, there was definitely a chance of it being stopped. 20 seconds left. Michel hits a huge body shot. He doesn't know he had him hurt. And if he did, he probably would have poured it on with the body shots and not gone for a takedown, which would have mean he could have had a chance to finish the fight. So not totally unhappy with that bet. Would play that bet again. What's up, Anaconda? Thanks for being in here, bro. Anaconda is saying that Modestus was on his bike constantly. He never stopped backpedaling. Yeah, and that basically probably lost him the fight, right? In the judges' eyes anyway, because it was a split decision. So one of the judges awarded it for him, right? And if he maybe stood his ground a little bit more, it's highly possible the other judge would have awarded it to him as well, or at least one of the other 2 judges. So yeah, he was on his bike constantly, but I guess Michel's pressure is real, man. And it's not as easy as just standing your ground, but yeah, definitely probably going to be a little bit disappointed with himself that he didn't stand his ground a little bit more. The next fight, Jared Gooden versus Bakr Medov. If you look here, the total strikes were 111 to 100 in favor of Jared Gooden. Maybe I wasn't watching this fight closely because I feel like Abu Bakr definitely outlanded him. But I mean, if you see the significant strikes, there's 60 to 43 in favor of Abu Bakr. So he definitely landed the more significant strikes. He hurt Jared Gooden multiple times in this fight. At least 2 or 3 times Jared Gooden looked hurt. But Jared Gooden's got that weird style where sometimes he looks hurt. I don't know. I felt like he was falling. I don't know what you guys feel like in the chat, but I felt like he was falling against the cage and like looking down, and he looked kind of out of it at times. It was really strange to see. Jared Gooden was fighting with his hands down. Maybe I feel like that's not his style. Like if I remember rightly, and guys, I have the worst memory, which is not good for content creation, right? It's actually I'm really annoyed at that. I probably need to maybe read a bit more, or I don't know, man, maybe fucking take some nootropics or some shit, because I got a bad memory and it's not good for content creation, right? But anyway, when I was taping Jared Gooden, I feel like he fought with his hands up more than he did in the Abu Bakr fight. And it makes sense because he probably was worried about the takedowns of Abu Bakr. So obviously if you fight with your hands down, it's more easy to block them takedowns. It's more easy to sprawl. You're closer to the ground anyway. So that's possibly a reason why he fought like that. But it wasn't good because he kept on getting caught with the strikes. And, if he doesn't usually fight like that, then he's obviously not as proficient defensively as fighting as he usually does, which is with his hands up, or at least more up than that. So it probably caused him to get caught a lot here. And it was funny, right? Because we saw Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, who's Khabib's cousin, his brother. I believe it might be his brother, but whatever. And we didn't see him shoot one takedown until the last round. And I'm probably wrong about that, right? Memory, because it says he only It says he shot 5 takedowns here, but I feel like a lot of them takedowns were like half-hearted takedowns. He wasn't really shooting them. He was kind of just trying to mix up the game. What I remember from this fight was Abu Bakr was, I don't want to say dominating, but virtually dominating the striking. He was the only one who ever hurt Gooden in the striking, hurt him more than once, was backing him up quite often. He had him against the cage quite a lot. He was throwing all types of strikes. He was throwing head kicks. And shout out to Newsome MMA, right, who's on Twitter. He said that he's noticed that Abu Bakr's leveled up his striking, is not the same guy as he saw on the regional scene. I agree with that. I do agree with that. And I don't think Jared Gooden's a terrible striker. You know, pound for pound, he's not the worst striker ever. Because sometimes you might think a fighter's leveled up in a specific area of the fight, but if they're fighting, quote unquote, a bum, they might just make him look better. So if Jared Gooden was an absolute terrible striker, for example, if Abu Bakr Medov was fighting Ben Askren, right, and it was a stand-up fight, you probably would say, wow, Abu Bakr's striking's got so much better. But actually, not really. Ben Askren's just really bad. So it makes Abu Bakr look good. But in this regard, I don't think Jared is like a terrible striker. Look, I don't think Jared's UFC level, and I said that pre-fight on my preliminary card breakdown. You can go and listen to it. I actually said I think Abu Bakr will win via decision. And I was close to betting Abu Bakr via decision. And this is all documented. You can go back and see my video from last week, my preliminary card breakdown on this fight. I had the same graphics up, and I said Abu Bakr probably should win by decision. I did think he was going to do it via the takedowns, but I don't think Jared Gooden is UFC level. But I still think his striking is decent enough as to where Abu Bakr wouldn't look that good if he hadn't improved. That's a long way of saying I agree with Newsome, and I do think Abu Bakr has probably improved his striking a little bit. So that's something to take in note. You know, he's an improving fighter, and specifically his striking is improving. But I guess he didn't need to mix in his takedowns, but I would like to see him mix in his takedowns a little bit more, maybe, because he's got decent takedowns and he's got good timing on his takedowns. But yeah, shout out to Abu Bakr. That was a good win by him. He bounces back from his UFC debut where he lost very quickly via triangle choke to David Zawada within the first couple of minutes of the fight. And he was very visibly upset. But this time he comes back and gets a dominant decision win there, 30-27 with ease against Jared Gooden. Shout out to Trent. Thanks for being here, bro. I don't think I've seen you in here, so appreciate you being here. Trent is saying he noticed the same thing, and I believe he's talking about he noticed Jared Gooden acting, not going to say acting, but looking a bit strange against the cage after he had got hurt, looking down. It was a bit of a weird thing. And Anaconda's agreeing as well. He's saying Gooden was reacting awkward to getting hit, almost reacted similar to Malcolm Gordon when he gets hit. Yeah, shout out to Malcolm Gordon, man. Anytime that dude fights, we could make a lot of cash against him. You know, the other fighter by TKO KO. I think Malcolm Gordon's probably released from the UFC now. But yeah, I know what you mean. He did look a bit weird, right? I mean, I wouldn't say as bad as Malcolm Gordon, because that dude, when he gets hits with the jab, he looks like that. But Jared Gordon, when he got hit with some decent shots, he definitely, yeah, he was reacting weird, man. It looked like he didn't want to get hit. And that's not what you want to see in a UFC fighter, right? You see that quite often. Not often, but you see that every now and then from fighters. And man, it's a huge red flag. So we need to note that going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jared is cut now. 2 losses in a row, 2 fights in the UFC, 2 losses in the UFC. Maybe they'll give him another loss, you know, another fight. I mean, look, he might win. They do often give you 3 losses and then you're cut. But these days, I feel like sometimes they don't even give you 2 losses. You know, there's fighters that have 1 fight in the UFC and get cut. So, you know, usually it's 3 losses and you're out after you've won in the UFC, or maybe a little bit more established. So I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Gooden back in the UFC. The next fight, quickest fight on the card. Actually, this probably wasn't as quick as the Malarkey fight. I'm not sure. Actually, I almost am sure. I think the Malarkey fight was quicker, and we'll go over that next because it was the next fight. But yeah, Alonzo Menefield definitely, I guess, justified his price tag. But we only saw 1 iteration of the fight, right? So maybe if they fight 100 times, that doesn't happen a lot. But I'm going to say it probably does happen a lot. Alonzo Menefield, 3 strikes, 3 significant strikes, 1 takedown, 1 submission, 1 win in 71 seconds in the first round. Came out, threw an overhand at Sharon, got the body lock, took him down, got the Von Flue choke, Von Pruge choke, whatever you want to call it. Complete domination by Alonzo Menefield. Easy first round win for him there. I'm sure they'll give Charant another fight. He came in on short notice, so I'm sure they'll give him another fight. But yeah, he got blown out of the water there. The next fight, yeah, it was actually quicker. Was Jamie Malarkey versus Kama Worthy. 46-second win for Jamie Malarkey. 6 strikes from Jamie Malarkey. 6 significant strikes. And 1 KO, within 46 seconds. Very bad look from Kama Worthy. Kama Worthy has no chin, it is what it is, man. He's lost 8 fights. All of them have been via stoppage, and 7 have been by KO, TKO. So, he got knocked almost unconscious in the fight against Malarkey. He might have gone out because when he was coming to, or when the fights were getting, when the scorecards were almost being read out, he said to a couple of the people in the ring what happened. So, I mean, it's a shame for Kama Worthy because he's a professional fighter and he just cannot take a punch, man. He really cannot take a punch. Jamie Malarkey's not a huge hitter at all, but one left hook and he destroyed him. So, damn. Shout out to Jamie Malarkey. Solid win there. But Kama Worthy, man. If he's in the UFC still, which I'm sure he will be, we have to fade his chin, man. I'm upset with myself that I didn't bet Jamie Malarkey straight or by stoppage there because I knew Worthy had such a bad chin, but I didn't really rate Malarkey as a fighter overall. But, he didn't look terrible in his last fight against Faraz Ziem. Probably should have got the nod in that fight. And obviously, he just knocked out Kama Worthy in 46 seconds. And his first fight, it was against Brad Riddell. He got absolutely destroyed for most of that fight. But there was a couple times where Brad Riddell kind of got tired from beating Jamie's face, and he actually came back into it and looked like he, hurt Brad for a minute. So 3 fights in the UFC, could have been 2 wins easily, 1 KO, and 1 fight where he fought a solid fighter who's probably top 20 in the UFC's lightweight division. And, he didn't look that bad in that fight. I mean, to be honest, he got dominated against Brad Riddell, but there was a couple moments where at least he showed durability, at least he showed heart, at least he showed good cardio. So, shout out to Jamie Malarkey. He may be better than I thought. The next fight, we had Julian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick. Fight that went all 3 rounds. Fight that Miranda Maverick won. A fight that she shouldn't have won 30-27 on one judge's scorecard. I believe it was a clear 29-28. Julian Robertson had control in that second round for virtually the whole fight. The whole round, I should say. Miranda Maverick did get up to her feet and land some blows. And that's what we're seeing very often now, guys. You have to think about this going forward, which is basically that if a fighter has back control for, I don't know, however many rounds, but they don't finish, and the other fighter just lands a couple of pretty decent shots, the judges will often give that fighter the round. So you have to be very, very careful with that one, I remember Yana Kunitskaya versus Ketlin Vieira was very similar, where Kunitskaya got her back taken for like 4 minutes. She had to defend submissions for 2 minutes. She landed like 1 or 2 elbows at the end of the round when she was on top, and she actually got given the round by a judge. So you have to be very careful when you're backing these fighters that need submissions or fighters that need top control, because if they don't do damage in top control, a lot of times they could still lose the round, even if they only lose 15 seconds of that round, which I highly disagree with. But I have had some people come to me like, no, that's how it should be. I guess they're, I don't want to say casuals. I don't really like using that word sometimes, but man, they just, I don't really know how you can say that Maverick should have won the fight just because she probably did do more damage on Julian. But a little bit more damage. But how are you going to quantify damage? Because she had her back taken for how long? Julian had hooks in. Julian went for submissions, I believe. Yeah, man, it's strange to me, but anyway, Maverick was the rightful winner. And Maverick's only young, man, and she's got a bright future. She's built like a tank, and she's very strong. And yeah, man, I'm excited to see where Maverick goes in the future. And still, Julian Robertson can still get a lot of wins in the UFC, man. She's only like 24, 25 years old, which is really young. So yeah, man, they're both decent fighters. I know Julian's lost quite a few fights in the UFC now, but man, I don't think Julian's terrible. She's definitely still got a lot of winnable matchups there, but definitely Maverick is the prospect that we need to be keeping an eye on because she does seem to have a decent game. The next fight, very exciting fight here, was the most exciting fight that I predicted to be on my card, on my podcast. Sorry, I predicted this fight to be the most exciting fight. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to my podcast, go on Spotify, Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. So subscribe to me on them channels so you get updates of when I release the podcast. I also release them on YouTube as well, so you can catch them on there. So yeah, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Sean O'Malley, complete domination, right? Complete domination. Definitely justified his price tag, in my opinion. It felt like that, what was he, like -3? What was he? Sean O'Malley was like -330, right? Which is like about a 77% indication. From what we saw over them 13, 14 minutes, I do believe that we can say about at least 77% of the time Sean O'Malley wins that fight. I mean, he was a level above Thomas Almeida. Thomas Almeida couldn't get a beat on him, couldn't get a read on his style. Thomas Almeida was trying his best. He came forward the whole fight. He just couldn't land, man. Sean O'Malley's style is tailor-made for Thomas Almeida, someone who likes to stand in the pocket, someone who likes to pressure, someone who likes to go blow for blow, someone who's very well trained. Sean O'Malley is, like a hybrid fighter. He's like a karate fighter mixed with MMA, and boxing. He's in and out, bouncing all the time. His cardio held up there. He looked tired after that first round flurry when he almost finished Thomas, but he was able to pressure on, push on, and get Thomas out of there in the last minute and a half of the fight, which is good to see. The last minute and a half of the fight, he was still able to put him away with a beautiful short left hook. He was just out of range of Thomas. Thomas wasn't facing him. He banged the short left hook and put Thomas out. I will say that he needs to stop being so. I would never say that he needs to stop being so flashy because that's part of his game. But what he does need to do is when he drops someone, don't just walk away. Because he did it in the first round and it almost cost him. If he came back to lose that fight, he would forever be looking at himself thinking, why did I walk away when I almost had Thomas finished in that first round? He did it in the third round as well. He dropped Thomas and he walked away. He needs to stop walking away. He's too flash there. He's too cocky there. Don't walk away. If you have a obvious walk-off knockout, yeah, okay, you don't need to hit him with another strike like Lewis versus Blades. But it wasn't like that, Thomas wasn't completely out. In the first round, he definitely wasn't. And in the second round, you wasn't really to know if he was completely out. And I know Sean said, I knew that he was gone. He didn't take another shot. You didn't know that he was gone. You thought he was gone in the first round and walked away and you was wrong. So I don't think you knew. You never truly know until you see their reaction, And he didn't even see the reaction properly because he just walked away. So he needs to stop that, and he needs to stop a couple of, he's just a little bit over flash, only very slightly. I would never say, that he's too flash. That is his game, It wins him a lot of fights. It distracts his opponents. There was a couple times where he was a little bit, it was a couple times where he was a little bit too over cocky, in my opinion. He probably could have got Thomas out of there a little bit sooner. When he had him hurt in that first round, he was consistently going for spinning heel kicks because he wanted that huge walk-off knockout. If he didn't do that, I believe he would be able to get Thomas out of there sooner. But all in all, an amazing performance by Sean O'Malley, a standout performance on the card, I believe, against a solid guy in Thomas Almeida. He looked a level above, and yeah, shout out to Sean O'Malley. He comes back with a bang in that fight, and I'm very excited for that boy's future. Shout out to Jamaican. I've seen you in here before. Thanks for coming here, bro. He's saying it was a shame to see the racist insults and jokes geared towards Ngannou online after the man did nothing wrong but realize his dreams. This world is messed up. Man, I don't know what ones you're talking about. I'm sure there was plenty. You know, anytime anything happens, racism comes out, sexism comes out online, right? You're saying online because online, it can be a toxic place at times, right? But then it can also be a beautiful place, right? 90% of this people in this world are beautiful people. And at the end of the day, 90% of the people in the world actually agree on more things that they don't agree. So just don't pay no attention to it, bro. It doesn't help you. You know what I mean? It only makes you feel negative. And I can tell in your tone of your message that, you know, you don't feel good about that. And I wouldn't either. You know, there's a couple times I come across things online. It's kind of hard when we have Twitter profiles and we read YouTube comments and stuff. But at the end of the day, man, you can't change it. It is what it is, right? But just remember that 90% of the people in this world actually agree and have more in common than the rest of the 10%. But the 10% oftentimes are more amplified because negativity, unfortunately, just attracts us more. I don't know why, as humans, than positivity, right? That's why tabloids and newspapers print negative press, right? Because it sells more. You know, for example, if you see for example, for all the 2 or 3 racist comments you saw, I'm almost certain, I'm certain in saying that there was 100 to 200 nice comments congratulating him, right? So yeah, man, just don't focus on it, bro. Like, try and focus on the good, because at the end of the day, you can't stop it, right? There's always wankers going to come out online. So a bit of a rant there, but you get what I'm saying, man. And you're saying, that's right, keep up the good work. I'm excited about MMA in 2021. Yes, bro. I will. I'm not going nowhere. We've had a solid first quarter for me and my members. I've earned a decent amount of money myself. My members have earned a lot of money. And yeah, man, we're coming for that 70 unit year. I want to get that 70 unit year. So yeah, the next fight was Tyrone Woodley versus Vicente Lucay. Vicente, absolute beast, but he confirmed what I already knew. I didn't really learn anything new from this fight in regards to Vicente Lucay. What I did learn new from this fight is Tyrone Woodley. I mean, shout out to Tyrone, man. He came out like an animal. He went out on his shield. He hurt Vicente Lucay. He got too overzealous and got hurt himself. And once he got hurt by that Vicente left or right hand, he just never recovered. Vicente was able to pour the pressure on. He was able to get Tyrone in a dash choke, and that's all she wrote. He stopped Tyrone in the first round, which is a very good statement, right? He made a statement against Tyrone because no one's really ever stopped Tyrone in the first round. I'm not sure when he got stopped when he fought Nate Marquardt. That might have been in round 1, but might have been in round 3 to the end of round 3, actually, but I don't remember. But anyway, Vicente Lucay, yeah, stops Tyrone Woodley. And obviously now, if you beat Tyrone Woodley, you're going to get a big fight next, man. That's for sure. Usman beat Tyrone Woodley, obviously, to become champion. Colby beat Tyrone Woodley. I mean, he's next in line for the belt, right? If they didn't make that silly rematch with Masvidal and Usman. And Gilbert Burns beat Tyrone Woodley and got a title shot against Usman after. So you beat Tyrone Woodley. That means you beat the last champion before Usman. And that means that you are in title contention, man. That means you're in top 5 contention. I wouldn't be surprised if they made Vicente Lucay versus Gilbert Burns. That would be a good fight. I do want to see them do something with Wonderboy. Obviously, I don't want to see the Vicente Lucay and Wonderboy rematch. We've seen how that goes, and it wasn't too long ago, about 2 years ago. So I don't want to see that again. Obviously, Colby Covington's still out there. You can make Vicente versus Colby. You can make Vicente versus Gilbert. You should really make, and shout me in the chat if I'm missing anyone, because obviously you guys know, if you've been with me for a while, my memory is bad. But right now, at the top of the welterweight division, you've got Vicente Lucay. You've got Jeff Neal, but I don't know if Jeff Neal's at the top. I mean, look, his skills are there, but who has he really beat to be at the top? He just got dominated by Wonderboy. So the 4 at the top, in my opinion, now are Vicente Lucay, Wonderboy, and these are the 4 without a fight. Obviously, I'm not including Masvidal and Usman. Vicente Lucay, Wonderboy, Gilbert Burns, and Colby Covington. So you should do a round robin between them 2. So you should probably do, like, who do we want to fight? Who do we want to fight? We want Vicente to fight I don't know, man. Vicente versus. Let's do. Mate, anyone like Colby and Wonderboy and Gilbert. No, Gilbert would not fight Vicente because they are training partners and good friends. It makes it easier. So Vicente to fight Colby Covington and Wonderboy to fight Gilbert Burns. That's pretty solid, I'd say. And then obviously the winner of them two fights, whoever has the best performance, fights Masvidal and Usman, the winner of that fight. Or, do whatever you want with the division. You can give Gilbert Burns, Jeff Neal, and you can just give Colby the next shot. Man, there's so much we can do. Jamai Khan is down here saying Vicente versus Chiesa. Yeah, man, I forgot about Chiesa. Chiesa's up there now after the Magny fight. I will say that he hasn't got a standout win like that. Beating Woodley is not the same as beating Magny, even though Magny may be, less washed than Woodley. I mean, he definitely is. It's just not got the same ring as the name. And damn, look, I forgot about Leon Edwards, man. So look, you can do so much at the top. Jamai Khan is saying Covington should fight Edwards. Winner gets Masvidal, Usman winner. Yes. You're right. That's the one. Shout out to Jamai Khan. He got it right. Covington should fight Edwards and the winner should get Masvidal, Usman winner 100%. And then whatever you want to do with the others. Jamai Khan's on a roll now. He's saying Thompson versus Burns. That's a good fight. I like to see that. Lucay versus Chiesa. Yeah, I'm feeling it, man. You should be the matchmaker. You got it down more than me. But yeah, man, shout out to Tyrone. He really went out on his shield there. He doesn't have nothing to prove to anyone anymore. And I don't think he has anything to prove to himself after going out on his shield like that. So shout out to Tyrone. He should probably retire now. That's 4 losses in a row. 4 dominant losses in a row as well. So yeah, the final fight, the main event, the king, Francis Ngannou. He has now been crowned the king. Wow, man. Complete domination by Francis, right? Stipe didn't do anything. I put out a tweet on my Twitter and I said that we saw a lot from Francis that we hadn't seen before in this fight. And I'm going to get the tweet up and I'm going to actually go over it. And if any of you don't follow me on Twitter, obviously follow me on there. I give out a lot of information on there. I'm pretty active. And on Instagram, if anyone hasn't followed me on Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll get a lot of betting tips, man. Sometimes I'll do random breakdowns that I don't put anywhere else. A lot of content on my Instagram, I don't put anywhere else, right? The content I put on my podcast, sometimes I replicate on YouTube. Sometimes the stuff I put on Twitter, I'll talk about on my YouTube channel, like right now. But the stuff on my Instagram, that's not replicated anywhere else. So definitely follow me on Insta. A lot of free betting tips there, good at betting advice, and I'm always posting on there. So yeah, so the tweet I put out about Francis was, we saw a hell of a lot from Francis tonight. Improved takedown defense, scramble ability, takedowns of his own, multiple leg kicks, head kicks, patience, and reconfirming a solid chin. He was greatly improved, ultra impressive. And let's break that down. Improved takedown defense. Well, yeah, as you can see here, Stipe Miocic went 0 for 1 on takedowns. And he would have shot more takedowns if Francis didn't do so well in defending that first takedown defense. He defended that first takedown defense, which was a single leg. He was able to scramble from, so first he defended that first takedown defense. He was able to reverse it and take down Stipe himself. He got Stipe up, picked him, put him down. And then Stipe, as he was getting up, they went into a scramble. Francis was able to out-scramble Stipe, take Stipe's back, and land monstrous punches from behind that I'm surprised Stipe was able to take them punches. We saw Curtis Blades get put out by them punches from Ngannou, and not put unconscious, but we saw him get, knocked out, basically defeated. And then we saw JDS get stopped by similar punches when Francis was behind him. So I'm surprised Stipe was able to take them shots. But Francis definitely impressed me with the way he was able to out-scramble Stipe, reverse takedown on Stipe, take down Stipe himself, take Stipe's back, and then land them punches from the back. So he improved on all of them things. He definitely has made improvements. He showed multiple leg kicks, which he did show against JDS and has been implementing a little bit more recently, but he hit He hit Stipe with a lot of leg kicks in that fight. He also showed a head kick, which I haven't really seen from him before. Not one that landed as flush as that anyway. He landed just with the toes, but you could tell it got Stipe's attention. So that was another upgrade from Francis, landed a head kick. Patience, we haven't really seen that much patience from Francis before. He's a very dangerous man when he's patient because, his cardio was completely fine in that second round. You go back to the first fight between them, his cardio was almost gone in the second round. He was gassed after 3 minutes of that first round in that first fight. So definitely improved patience. And he reconfirmed a solid chin. I did know he had a solid chin because he has taken punches off a few fighters, and he definitely took a lot of punches off Stipe in that first fight, and he still didn't get stopped going 5 rounds, even though he was death gassed after 3 minutes. So I knew he had a solid chin, but he reconfirmed it because after he hurt Stipe badly, Stipe kind of threw a Hail Mary right hand, right, or a left hand. It was a straight shot. He stood his ground. Francis Ngannou walked into it. So he actually met the force, and Stipe hit him with a huge shot, and Francis didn't go anywhere. You could tell he got his attention. I mean, Stipe is one of the hardest hitters in the division. It definitely got his attention, but it didn't budge him. He just stayed there. Very solid. After that, he obviously landed the left hook. Right after he got hit with that shot, which was a huge shot by Stipe, he landed his own left hook and put Stipe out unconscious. So brutal ground and pound. He didn't need to do that ground and pound, but nothing against Francis because when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't know if a fighter's out. And this is for the world championship belt, man. So you better make sure Stipe's out because if he's not, he's coming back. So yeah, Francis landed that heavy hammer fist and that stopped the fight. But the fight was really already over. Shout out to Francis Ngannou, the rightful champion, complete domination by him. It's going to take a lot to get his belt off him. Obviously, the guys who have the most chance, in my opinion, are going to be Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. Obviously, everyone's saying Jon Jones doesn't have a chance. Look, Jon Jones is probably the greatest fighter of all time. He definitely has a chance. He always has a chance, okay? I do favor Ngannou. Obviously, he's more in his prime than Jon, in my opinion. Jon's moving up a weight division, which is the big thing, right? Which is the biggest factor in this fight, in my opinion. Francis Ngannou has a hell of a weight advantage on him, and it's going to be helpful in the wrestling, especially with his improved wrestling takedown defense. He has 30 pounds on Stipe Miocic in this fight, and when Miocic went for the takedown, the defense of Ngannou, coupled with his 30-pound weight advantage, showed. His 30-pound weight advantage, it's not to be brushed to the side. 30 pounds is a huge amount of weight to have an advantage on. It's more weight than Jan Blachowicz had over Israel Adesanya, and we saw how the weight advantage helped Jan in that fight. So 30 pounds is it's nothing to be sniffed at. I do favor Ngannou in that fight, but obviously I do believe Ciryl Gane and Jon Jones probably has the best chance of beating him. So shout out to Stipe, greatest heavyweight of all time. It's not even close, in my opinion. And then we've got Francis Ngannou, who's probably going to be champion for a while, man. But I definitely can't wait to see Francis fight, man. He could be a huge star in the sport. Shout out to K Visagi. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. He is saying conspiracy. Stipe and DC actually deteriorated in the span of their trilogy. DC more so. Stipe looked good because he faced a fellow past peak fighter the past 3 years. Just my 2 cents. Your 2 cents is probably a little bit on the money, man. I mean, look, it's not really a hot take. Basically, the only argument against that would be that Stipe's a better fighter now than he was at the first DC fight. I think that's pretty clearly not the case, you know? Are you going to say that Stipe's actually better now than before the DC fights? Probably not, man. It's 3 years ago. He's not a young buck anymore. You know, Stipe's getting older. So when you get past that 32 years of age, anytime you age, 9 times out of 10, you get worse. For example, a 35-year-old fighter is very rarely better than a 32-year-old fighter. But a 32-year-old fighter is a lot of the times better than a 29-year-old fighter, right? So a 3-year jump from 29 to 32, you probably actually get better at 32, right? But 32 to 35, you're probably not as good. And I'm not exactly sure how old Stipe is, but I got to think he's at least 36, 37. And if that's the case, I think it's easy to say that Stipe has got worse in the last 3 years, right? So Stipe's 38 years old. So I don't think anyone with half a brain cell is going to say that at 35, he was a worse fighter. Look, he's got more experience in them championship rounds, but Stipe doesn't need more experience, man. He's been fighting for a long time. He doesn't need any more experience. So yeah, I agree with you. Stipe has deteriorated in the last 3 years. It's just natural. It's just age, man. And if you take into account the amount of punishment he took in them, 15 rounds or 11 rounds or 10 rounds, I believe 10 rounds between him and DC. I mean, it's just coupled into the age. So yeah, man, 100% agree with you there for sure. Stipe is 38 and he is the GOAT. Definitely is. But Francis keeps doing what he does. He will take that crown. But he's still got a long way to go. Remember, he's 1-1 against Stipe Miocic. You can say what you will about Francis wasn't ready. He gassed out early. At the end of the day, he's 1-1. Anyway, that's it, guys. I've gone through the whole card, under an hour, which is good. Yeah, man, thanks for listening. I'll be back in midweek to break down the preliminary card, or I'll probably do the main card of Bellator, because we don't have any UFC next week, but we do have Bellator. The first quarter of 2021 is done. We are in profit plus 18.25 units, a very solid number. If we continue that over the next 3 quarters, we're going to be in profit plus 73 units. If you want to sign up for the membership, go to lucrativemmabetting.com. I'm third-party independently tracked on betmma.tips. So all my record is documented. For the last 2 years, we're in profit. I've made a lot of money from MMA betting. My members have made a lot of money from MMA betting. I put in about 30 plus hours of research each week, and I make content like this. So if you guys want to sign up and earn money from MMA, it's pretty simple. You just go on my website, get a package, and you will earn money watching your sport. It is what it is. Thanks for everyone for listening. Follow my Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, man, I'll be back on YouTube pretty soon and on my podcast pretty soon with more information. Thanks, guys, and see you in the next video or in the next podcast.